Shri Barabadi Shri Jai Ho Jai Shri Radhe. Sub Vaishnav Ko Jai Shri Krishna. This is day 82 and Varta 76, the story of Sant Das Chopra, a Kshatriya who lived not far from the market in Agra, Bhav Prakash. In the eternal Leela, he is a Sakhi of Sri Chandravaliji, named Chandrika. One day, she and Sri Chandravaliji both went together to bathe in Sri Yamunaji. After bathing, Sri Chandravaliji remarked that Sri Thakurji had not come to the Sri Yamuna river bank that day. She told Chandrika to cross the river and go to Sri Yashodaji's home. Chandrika set off. She met Sri Swamiji at the door to Sri Nandaraji's place. Sri Swamiji asked her where she was going. "Where is Sri Chandravaliji?" she asked. Chandrika said that she did not know, but Sri Swamiji asked her why she was lying. "You have probably come to fetch Sri Thakurji," she said. "You are clever in these matters." Chandrika replied, "In these matters, both you and Sri Chandravaliji are clever. I know nothing. I took a bath in Sri Yamunaji and I have come here. I am on my way home. There is nothing clever about this, but everyone in the whole of Vraja talks about how clever you are." She spoke very proudly. Sri Swamiji told her that for her pride she would now fall to earth, but would return when her pride had been healed. Chandrika was born into a family of very wealthy Chopra Kshatriyas as Sant Das. Before this, Sant Das's father had no offspring. He used to give lots of food supplies to renunciates and saintly people in the hope of getting a son through their blessings. One renunciate told him that Mahadev would grant him a son if he could please him. That Kshatriya took vows and worshipped Mahadev until his body started to waste away. One night in his dreams, Mahadev appeared and asked him what he wanted. The Kshatriya replied that he would like to have a nice son who was a devotee of Sri Hari. Mahadev said that up till now all the children he had granted had turned out to be atheists. You have asked me for a son who is a devotee of the Lord. I don't know if I can do this. I also always crave for the company of Vaishnavas, but I shall give you my answer tomorrow." Mahadev then approached Sri Hari and supplicated, "I have to grant a boon to one Kshatriya, but he has asked for a son devoted to you. Is this possible?" Sri Hari replied, "Please go to him and tell him he will beget such a son who will liberate the whole family. A great Vaishnava related to the eternal Leela and as strong as myself will be born." Mahadev went to the Kshatriya and told him in a dream the next night, "You are most fortunate. A devotee of Sri Hari will indeed be born. He will purify your whole family." Then Mahadev went home. After seeing that dream, the Kshatriya was very pleased. However, he told himself not to get too excited before all this came about. Soon his wife became pregnant. When the time came around, the son was born, and he also came into some wealth. When the boy was a little older, his father named him Sant Das. Sant Das got married, and then his father died. Sant Das was bothered by the appointed number of days of mourning with their restrictions. He was anxious to get back to his devotional practices. He asked his family members where he could hear some devotional discourse, and someone told him that the Vaishnava Kanhaiya Shal was currently hosting Sri Vallabhacharyaji, and that if he heard such discourses, he would be immersed in bliss. Sant Das asked him to take him with him the next time he went. So in the afternoon, Sant Das arrived in Sri Acharyaji's presence together with the other Kshatriya. Sant Das bowed low to Sri Acharyaji and sat down to listen as he spoke. He immediately experienced in his heart that Sri Acharyaji was the Supreme Lord himself. After the discourse, Sant Das begged him to make him a disciple in his shelter. Sri Acharyaji said that he could only initiate him when the period of impurity was over. Until that time, Sant Das went to listen every day. He would only eat after having Sri Acharyaji's sight. When the period of impurity was over, Sant Das bathed and went to Sri Acharyaji and invited him to come to his home in order to purify him and his family. Sri Acharyaji came there, and after Sant Das bathed, he initiated him with the Lord's name and Brahma Sambandh. Sant Das also requested him to accept his wife. Sri Acharyaji said he could only tell her the Lord's name because she was not a divine soul, but that she would be purified by Sant Das's association. He thus initiated her with the Lord's name. Sant Das asked Sri Acharyaji to grant him some seva. Sri Acharyaji gave him a prasadi garment of Sri Navaneet Priyaji. After Sant Das had cleaned his home, Sri Acharyaji cooked there, offered and partook of the prasad. Afterwards, Sant Das and his wife ate his leftovers. They both had Mahaprasad. After this, when Sri Acharyaji was sitting alone, Sant Das went to him and, bowing low, requested that he might experience the Lord's presence even whilst he was in this body, and that the ups and downs of material life should not present any obstacle. Also that Sri Acharyaji's form always sits in his heart, and that he experiences the rewards of the path of grace. Sri Acharyaji taught him the Purushottam Sahasranam treatise, the 1,000 names of the Supreme Lord. When he had finished this work, he gave the very book to Santadas and told him that all his wishes would be granted by this book. He also told him that after a few days all his wealth would be destroyed. Therefore he should give all his funds to the Lord to avoid this situation. However, he also explained that once he had given the money to Sri Thakurji, then he would not be able to use it even for eating and drinking, because it would then be the Lord's wealth, and taking from it could corrupt his mind. He told him to have wisdom, perseverance, and firm surrender, and to be patient. "You are a divine soul," he said. "You will be able to uplift your true path. Uphold your true path. The rest will be difficult, but I am pleased with you, and so none of this will obstruct your devotion." Having blessed Sant Das such, Sri Acharyaji went off to Vraj. Sant Das had lots of gold and silver vessels and jewellery made for Sri Thakurji, some of which he kept at home, and some he sent to Sri Nathji, and some to Sri Gosaiji. Part 1. Sant Das had been very wealthy. He had hundreds of thousands of rupees, but he just suddenly lost all of it through business, and some was stolen, some was seized by the king. He became penniless. However, he was pleased that Sri Acharyaji's prediction had come true. He had 24 pence left, with which he brought some small cowrie shells previously used as tender. He arranged them into small piles, each worth 1 paisa. He did not speak to anyone. People would put down their little coins and take away the pile of shells. He earned 2.5 pence per day doing this. He sat there and read his devotional books. He would purchase half a paisa's worth of snacks. He spent 1 paisa on the midday offering. In the summer it was sprouted lentils and beans, and in the winter roasted chickpeas. He took his Mahaprasad from this offering only. At night time he would distribute half a penny's worth of the snacks to all, and Vaishnavas who gathered there to sing and listen to tales of Vaishnavas and read texts. In this way he survived. Narayan Das, who was a disciple of Sri Gosaiji from the Gauda region, heard that Sant Das was very poor. Narayan Das wrote Sant Das a letter within which he included a money transfer of 100 gold coins. On top he asked for a fee of 1 paisa to be given to the courier. The letter arrived in Agra. Sant Das read it. He immediately gave 1 paisa out of his day's earnings to the courier, and therefore was not able to offer the midday plate. He sent all the money to Sri Gosaiji in Gokul. Sant Das wrote a letter of reply to Narayan Das, saying, "Just so that you could display your greatness, the midday offerings could not be made. Please do not ever do such a favour to me again. I gave all your money to Sri Gosaiji. The money transfer letter arrived in Gokul, and Champabai, Shankarbai, and the store manager all read it. They told Sri Gosaiji, 'O Maharaj, Narayan Das from Gauda region sent a money transfer to Sant Das, and he has sent it to you all. All to you.' Sri Gosaiji said, 'Sant Das is a very accomplished Vaishnava and a great recipient of my father's grace, his very true disciple. He did not want to take money from a Vaishnava, so he sent it all here.'" Bhav Prakash. This tale generates a couple of questions. On a balance of 24 rupees, Sant Das earned 2.5 pence. Out of that he gave 1 paisa to the courier. He wrote to Narayan Das that because of him the midday offering was not made. Why did he not take the money out of the balance of 24 pence? Sant Das relied totally on the grace of the Lord and not on the balance of 24 pence. He would have had to think about how he would earn more the next day in order to replace that which he would have taken out. That amount remained intact. His mind was fully focused on the Lord, and so he did not take anything out of the balance. So why did he neglect the midday offering on this principle? The other question is that Sant Das and his wife lived in Agra, so how did they survive on just 2.5 paisa per day? There are endless expenses in a house, like wood, oil, ghee, salt, vegetables, etc. How was he able to celebrate festivals like the tying of the pavitra, the silken thread, or Sri Acharyaji's appearance day? His wealth was all gone, but he had kept a store out of Sri Thakurji's wealth, which was only for his seva. Sant Das kept only 24 pence, with which he set up business of selling cowrie shells. He could not give the courier money out of that kept separately for the Lord, so he gave him the fee out of his earnings. Therefore there was not enough left out of his wages to offer the midday plate. Usually he used 1 paisa's worth of flour to make the offering, and they ate from that alone. Anything else that was purely for the Lord came out of the Lord's share. Therefore his seva from the 1 paisa could not be done, because it had to go to the courier. That is why he wrote to Narayan Das that his display of generosity had caused the lack of the midday offerings for that day. He was not able to make it from his earnings. In this way, Sant Das showed the true manifested form of Sri Acharyaji's Vivekaderi Ashray treatise. He sent all the money to Sri Gosaiji, so he could not complete the day's seva, and the midday offering could not be made. The patient adherence to principle was that Santadas would not eat from the Lord's wealth. His surrender was such that, by doing this, he was blessed. He did not even consider it to be troublesome. In this way, Santadas served in the way that Sri Acharyaji had instructed through his writings. Thus he was always immersed in bliss. Santadas's story is almost impossible to tell and grasp, but begs repeated contemplation. This is the end of part 1 of the story of Santadas Chopra, and next time we will complete the Varta. Shri Vallabhadisha ki jai. Shri Gosaiji Param Dayala ki jai. Shri Vallabhadish. Jai Shri Krishna. Jai Jai Shri Radhe.